Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Ladies and gentlemen, pranam, good morning, good afternoon, whatever be the time of the day when you are watching this NPTEL lecture on English for thesis writing. Welcome back to third module, third week and the last lecture of the third week in this 8-week NPTEL course hosted by IIT Kharagpur NPTEL team on the Swayam platform. The title of this presentation is Academic Writing for Multilingual Writers, Practices, Issues and Strategies. So, in other words, we are talking about English in a multilingual context. We are talking about doing academic writing by those who are from different linguistic backgrounds. What are the practices, what are the issues and what are the strategies that would make academic writing more feasible, more communicative and more meaningful? So, the concepts I will cover in this presentation are the following 5 and 5 more to follow here. The first point is we will talk about how to write so that you are communicating and you are not trying to impress, you are not a journalist or you are not writing to get the Nobel Prize for literature. The second is to follow the instructions, the third to use good models and the fourth to gather plenty of suitable information and the fifth to organize the information carefully. I am just reading it because there is more to follow in the rest of the slides. We will also be doing the sixth point. We set aside blocks of time for writing so that as readers, users, writers of English which is not our mother tongue, we can be comfortable in the language which is foreign to us. The seventh point is how to keep the comfort of the audience. The communication should be taking place between the audience and you. The audience is the reader of your academic writing. The eighth is to write readably. What you should write should also be able to be read comfortably. The ninth is to credit sources adequately, that is citation instead of plagiarism. And the 10th is what makes writing shine out. Why your writing shines out for its uniqueness is that you have revised and re-revised. So, moving to the main part of the presentation. We are going to talk in small detail about academic writing and discourse conventions. So, what is highlighted by being bold on this slide is important. So, the first of all we have to understand is that all knowledge is viewed as field specific. So, there is knowledge which is segmented into engineering, sciences, humanities, management, so on and so forth. And all these different knowledge fields have their own frameworks of reality. The second is all written knowledge is contextual as well as relational, and therefore, what is actually happening is that in academic writing we are as multilingual readers, users and writers of English which is a foreign language, we are aiming for an audience and the meaning is always co-constructed between the writer, text and audience. So, the text, your academic writing is a common area between the writer and the audience. And we move further to the academic genres which are a class of communicative events. This is a way in which we define genres, because there are a set of events or a category of events which are trying to put into or portray as a genre. We will come to that in the next slide. But as of now, you must understand that what is the essential aspect of successful expository academic writing, and there are three. First is content, second is organization, and third is clarity. So, content is about English as a language, which we are covering in lectures 1 to 20 more or less approximately. I am not being very perfect. The second is about organization, which we will cover in 21 to 40 lectures of this 8-week course. And the third is clarity, which is the beacon, which is the highlight of any academic writing, that it is clear. It is so clear that even a non-specialist can understand. Maybe it is an engineer or a scientist writing something, but even a non-engineer or a non-scientist should be able to make sense out of it. So, in short, writing is a process, because you are writing, you are revising, rewriting, revising and rewriting. So, in that case, it implies that you learn writing only by working with your mentors, who may be your supervisors and doctoral scrutiny committee members, your peers, fellow research scholars and advisors, head of department, so on and so forth, and you are working in the field. You cannot have somebody else doing shell writing for you. What are the common academic genres which we talk about in the multilingual field? Abstracts and conference papers, they go together. Research articles, lab reports or records, dissertations or thesis. Dissertations are for master level and thesis is for doctoral level. Monographs, lecture notes or bibliographies. And there are disciplinary differences between the sciences and the humanities. By mistake this humanities has gone here, but basically when we send you the final PowerPoint, humanities should come on top of this second right hand side bulleted list. So, in sciences we have research articles, lab reports and record of procedures, lecture notes, field notes, bibliographies, monographies and monographs and multi-author monographs, dissertations and grant proposals, abstracts, conference papers and conference proposals, teaching philosophies, course syllabi, assignment sheets and emails. Emails are common, also teaching philosophies, course syllabi, assignment sheets are common. So, what is uncommon is lecture notes, archival notes, annotations and bibliographies, which are important in humanities, and book reviews are also important in humanities. The research articles are not strict models, but they are more essayistic, more in the form of essay. The English word essay comes from the French essai, A-S-S-A-I, which means to attempt. So, essay is to make an attempt to write on a topic of interest or given to you. Moving ahead, most common elements of a research article are 4, which are IMRD. The introduction, in the first part of your research article, you tackle the question, what was the question? In methods, how did you try to answer that question? In results, what are your findings? And in discussion or conclusion, what does it mean for you and those who are reading your research article? Let us come to the introduction part. In the introduction, the general topic, the research questions, the literature review and the organizational paragraph are the thrust or the crux of the matter. These are articulated in the introduction, and the researcher in fact creates a research space model in his or her introduction. That is, he does or she does the literature review and finds the gap areas and say, I will work in this research space. This is the gap area and my research will focus on this research space. So, the introduction makes 3 moves to create a research space, and we come then to the methods and methodologies, or chapter 2 or second part of your research article. Here in this section the second section, the researcher or the academic writer tackles the 5 questions given on this slide. The first question is, how did you collect and analyze your data? The second, you lay out the method of data collection. Thirdly, you answer question like how you selected your data, identify your equipment, reagents, organisms, etc., etc., etc. Fourth, you talk about how you analyze the data. What did you do? Did you use ANOVA testing or regression analysis? Did you use feminist discourse analysis, or did you do ethnographic triangulation? Then the fifth part is limitations of your analysis, that is, not enough data was there. I could not collect 400 data, I could collect only 300 data samples, methodological limitations, and so on and so forth. And then we come to the results or the discussions of your research article, where you articulate and explicate the findings. You develop your ideas on what you have found as a result of your research. You relate your findings to your initial research questions, which is RQ. So, in your introduction, if you have stated 3 research questions, research question 1, RQ 2, RQ 3, in the results or discussion or conclusion part, you have to relate your findings to your initial RQ, and you connect your findings and analysis to the scholarship on the topic, the larger area which exists beyond your research article. And in this section, the results or discussion section, you also create a conversation between your findings and the published literature. For example, you can write something like XX published in 2010 said this, and my findings corroborate or refute or modify that statement of XX, which he or she made it in 2010. Moving further, we come to the abstract, which is called the summary of an article, which is summarizing an article. An abstract is a concise summary of a larger project. So, the PhD thesis has an abstract, the research report has an abstract, the performance report has an abstract, and a service report also has an abstract. And there are 3 main features of an abstract, which are content, scope, and objective. That is, in other words, your abstract will have to deal with the question of the content, scope, and objective of your complete or full write-up. Also, in the abstract, you will identify the methodology, the findings, conclusions, and intended results. Because your abstract is a summary of your write-up, so you have to identify the methodology, what you used, the findings, what you found, and conclusions, what meaning you made out of your findings. So, in other words, the abstract is a description of your project, and we can move further to what more can be said on the abstract in this slide. So, since you are writing your abstract, stop at the end of every sentence and make sure that you are summarizing the project you have undertaken, rather than the more general topic. There might be lots, hundreds of things said about avalanches, but you are working on a specific type of avalanche. So, when you are writing your abstract, stop at the end of every sentence and make sure that you are sticking to your limits, that you are maintaining the purity and the uniqueness of your research findings. When we come to the hard sciences and the social sciences, we find that abstracts have more emphasis on methods, but when we come to humanities abstracts, then we find that the abstracts written by humanities background researchers spending more time on explaining their objective. Now, how do you identify the parts of an abstract? In other words, every abstract should include 4 main types of information. First is objective, second is methods, third is your result or product, and fourth is what conclusions you are drawing from the implications of your project. So, what are the tips we can offer for writing an abstract? The first is to highlight the objective and the conclusions, which are there in the introduction and the discussion part. Introduction is part 1, discussion is part 5. So, introduction is first part, discussion is last part. So, while writing the abstract, number 1 point is to highlight the introduction and the discussion. Third is to bracket information in the method section, so that keyword information, you know that every abstract is to be followed by 5 to 7 keywords, so that a research article or your conference paper can be located. Therefore, in the method section you have to bracket those keywords which will follow at the end of your abstract. And third is to highlight the results from the discussion or result section of the paper, because when you highlight the results from the discussion or result section of the paper, you are in fact adding to the field of knowledge, plus you are emphasizing what are your contributions which are unique. The fourth is to compile the highlighted and bracketed information in one paragraph, because an abstract does not have 2 paragraphs. There is no need to explain the methods, you just make a reference to it, because abstract has a word limit. In most cases, the abstract is to be within 250 words, sometimes it might go up to 300 words, inclusive of keywords, which may be 5 to 7 or 7 to 10. We continue further. The fifth point is to condense the bracketed information. The sixth, delete any extra words and redundancies. Seventh is rephrase the first sentence, so that it starts off with the new information contained in the paper rather than with the general topic. There is nothing to explain here. Rephrase the first sentence of your abstract. Remember that the first sentence of your paragraph is called the grabber. It is called in English the grabber, G-R-A-B-B-E-R, because it grabs the attention of the reader. So, the first sentence of your abstract is supremely important. You need to rephrase the first sentence, so that it starts off with the new information contained in the paper, rather than any generalities. So, you can do this by saying something like this paper, which is very emphatic, or this study, or the present research. And eighth is to revise the paragraph, so that the abstract conveys the essential information. In short, we have come to the conclusion of lecture 15, and in this lecture, as we stated in the beginning, we have covered the following points with respect to the basics of academic writing. There are 4 to 5 points on this slide, and there are 5 more points on this slide ending with revise, revise, revise. And therefore, this course English for thesis writing, which implies that English has to be revised, 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 because we are multilingual. We are from different countries. English is not our mother tongue. It may be Urdu, for example, in Pakistan. It may be Arabic, for example, in Saudi Arabia. It may be Hindi, for example, or Bengali in India or West Bengal. But all of us have to write our academic endeavors using English. We would also like to show you the references for this PowerPoint presentation, lecture 15. There are 5 on this slide. I have drawn from most of them, and there are 5 more on this slide. And with that, we finally conclude lecture 15. Thank you and God bless you.